Story 1. Goodnight text agreement. My primary partner and I have an agreement, and I'm wondering if anyone else has something similar. Admittedly, it's mostly for my sake and security, but there nonetheless. When either of us is out on a date with someone else, sometimes before midnight, we will either text or call the other person with the equivalent of, "Good night, I love you. I'm looking forward to being back in your arms," or whatever. Basically, statement of connection and love. Or when a date is over, maybe and "I'm done if you want to talk before bed." If we know that we won't be able to send that message for some reason later in the night, it's a "heading out on my date, I love you, and look forward to being with you again, and you can expect to hear from me by such and such time," or in the morning. We wait for the dating partner to reach out and let the other know that the date is over with. It's a small gesture that takes less than 30 seconds, but it means literally the world to me. At all times, a good morning, good night text with an "I love you" and a term of affection is something that makes me feel so secure and loved. Does anyone else have anything like this in their relationship? Edit to add. I'm getting a lot of great counterpoints and things to think about. We are new to our relationship, and there have been some wounds on both sides lately. And I hear that can be an imposition. The agreement is also if she doesn't want to do that, she can send me, "I'm heading out to my date. I love you and I'll talk to you tomorrow." Based on feedback, it seems like I'll be reevaluating this agreement. I do want these texts, but not from duress or a place of control. And having an agreement around it will only build resentment. In general, I'm happy to do little things like this for my partner if it made them more comfortable, but I can see it breeding resentment. I will appreciate it more if she does it because she wants to, although it isn't something important to her, so I won't hold my breath. Now for some comments. Hungry for Noodle says, "This sounds like a good way to create an extra anxiety for both people. The person at home is sitting there clock watching, waiting for their text. The person on the date is trying to figure out when they can break off from a presumably great date to send this text and worrying that they'll miss their window. All for reassurance that could be gained from all sorts of other means, for example, expressing love when neither of you is on a date. When my partners are out on dates, I trust that they'll check in with me whenever they have a good time. Whether it's during the date, unexpected, after the next day, it doesn't actually matter when we reconnect because I have no doubt that we are going to reconnect." This person says, "Gotta admit it, if someone was in my house and calling their other partner, I would not be seeing them again. A quick text while you're on the potty, no problem. A phone call? Your mind isn't there with me. Unless, of course, it's an emergency, but just finished effing someone and all I can think about is being in your arms soon isn't an emergency, LOL." Yeah, that line from OP kind of gave me the ick, not going to lie. I'm all for letting my partner know that I can't wait to see them and cuddle with them, but while one of us is on a date, no thank you. It seems rude to the person that you're on the date with. I agree a quick bathroom text would be fine, but please, do not expect me to drop what I'm doing with the person I'm trying to build something with. And Too Fat to Serve says, "Relationship anarchist. I wanted that but thought better of it because things like that are super easy to turn into excuses to be mad about not getting in." And then this person says, "I don't need these things to feel secure and never expect much contact, especially not in specific time frames when partners are with metas. But I enjoy any reassuring my partners feel compelled to do with their own free will. It's a nice little surprise like random flowers in my eyes." Personally, I'm usually pretty hyper-focused on whoever I'm with, so I would never make this agreement, knowing it would be a chore to keep it, and I'd probably disappoint or upset someone who needed or relied on it. But I'm good about checking my phone during bathroom trips, so I'd definitely respond eventually if my partner's reached out to me first. I do always ask to get an arrival safe if my partners are going to be out of town though. And this person says, "It looks like you've got the feedback you needed, but I'm going to say that I have a close friend that stays over with me sometimes, and often it's fine when they need to give a goodnight text to all their partners. But sometimes one responds back and they're dealing with good nights for 10 minutes and not just coming to sleep and cuddle. I always just send any good nights I want to by 8 p.m. or so that I can be present with other company that I have. And I will never agree to a daily good night. There is no freedom if I ever miss it. I'd feel guilty and they'd feel upset. I am definitely thinking of my partners regularly, even if I'm not scheduling my life around reminding them of that every 24 hours. Story 2. People pleasers and poly. I'll admit it, I'm a people pleaser. I just want to do everything that I can to make everybody happy, especially when I love and care about people. This can be challenging when boundaries require the fortitude to say no. If I say no, then they might not be happy and the sky will fall. That's how it feels sometimes. I have a small library, but does anyone have any recommendations on resources, books, ebooks, and websites that address the challenges people pleasers face in poly? Anybody willing to share their personal experience is awesome too, since it's not a constant feeling for me, but when it pops up, it's so awkward. Be nice to know that I'm not a lone weirdo. Edit to add. I'm grateful for the responses that I'm reading and considering everything that's being shared. It's exactly what I needed. Both the harsh truth and not being alone. You made me happy I posted. Now for some comments. QB23 says, solo poly. I remind myself that if someone can't trust me to say no, they can't believe me when I say yes. I remind myself that I'd rather want honesty from my partners than falsehoods to avoid making me unhappy. My emotions are my business and I do not want my partners to try to manage what I'm allowed to feel. I remind myself that hearing no and feeling disappointed/unhappy and working through all those feelings has made me a better person and a better partner. It has made my relationships stronger. All my relationships in which the other person people pleased me ended poorly, and I felt deceived. It seemed like the person I thought that I loved never existed, and I never got to know the other person's authentic self. I also felt hurt that they never felt safe to be honest with me, and it led to a lot of self-doubt and self-blame. People-pleasing is not good for the people you're trying to please, and people who make you feel bad if you don't please them are not good for you. Seraph Muse says this, being on the receiving end of a people-pleasing partner, I felt really deceived by finding out later that I had received fake yeses and it affected my ability to trust that person. Towards the end, I really wondered how much of this relationship was really real and how much of it was just him just being too scared to say no and always going along with everything that I suggested. It also caused massive conflict because he would say yes to whoever was standing in front of him to please whoever he was literally facing at the time, further contributing to the trust issues. It ultimately ended our relationship after a year because I couldn't get over the feeling of being deceived and that I couldn't trust anything he'd ever said or did because he just didn't know how to be his authentic self. It was one of my painful breakups for that reason. I never knew how much of it was really real. This person says, people-pleasing is not good for the people you try to please. Yes, so much. And it also at heart selfish. It's a way of avoiding discomfort and the working of negotiating needs with other people at the cost of honesty and sometimes the consent of the person that you're pleasing. This person says, what a good tool to remind yourself that agreeing in order to avoid conflict now is not a good way to keep the peace, if down the road it could lead to the same or bigger conflict. This is especially important for a hinge when conflict could happen between two or more other partners or relationships. If conflict is very stressful for someone, they need to be constantly reminding themselves that the best way to have less conflict in their lives is try to prevent them arising in the first place, and to resolve any that do while they are still small and it's easier. And to do this, they need to have to be honest and authentic, and not giving in to people-pleasing tendencies. It can take a bit of practice to learn to communicate in a way that is both honest and kind, and to meet people where they are in terms of what communication style they need in order to be and to best understand and feel understood. A lot of us only learned how to communicate in the style that we ourselves prefer to get stuck between honest and harsh, or kind but vague and dishonest. It's actually a really important leadership skill that most people haven't learned, but is incredibly powerful for connection and useful in all areas of life. That's all for today. If you're enjoying this video, please hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell. Thank you and see you next time.